Welcome to Creative Piecemeal Podcast, a podcast for creatives. I'm your host, Tammy Takeishi. Join me for compelling conversations with artists, actors, authors, musicians, and other creatives about the impact of the creative and fine arts in their lives and our ever-changing world. Thank you for listening. Hello, welcome to Creative Piecemeal Podcast. Today I am joined by one of my friends, Nikkolas Smith. He is a native of Houston, a Master of Architecture recipient from Hampton University, and after designing theme parks at Walt Disney Imagineering for 11 years, he is now an ARTivist, concept artist, children's book author, film illustrator, movie poster designer, and as well as the author-illustrator of several picture books, including The Golden Girls of Rio, My Hair is Poofy and That's Okay, World Cup Women, and of course there are several more that just recently launched, which we can talk about. But hello and welcome to the show. So excited to have you here.
Hi, Tammy. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. You have such an impressive bio that I won't be able to read it all right now, but it's in the show notes, so definitely check it out. Nikkolas, you've been doing some amazing things in the last few years, but I've got to start at the very beginning. Who or what inspired you to become an artist?
Good question. I would say, my mom was very influential in my art path, my art career journey, all that stuff, because she always had art on the walls and she would bring art back from Africa and just art everywhere. I always say like our house is kind of like a museum kind of thing. If it just there's art all over the place. Definitely my mom, definitely like all of the amazing artists from Marvel that I saw growing up making like amazing illustrations of X-Men and stuff I always used to collect the comic cards, so like that, comic books, all that stuff. Lots of artists to thank for inspiring me when I was young. And I always would watch whatever cartoons or whatever was on TV, like trying to recreate that. Artists that I don't even know their names, but like so many over the years. And then as I got older, just like looking at amazing stuff by like Norman Rockwell and Kadir Nelson, Sam Spratt, like digital painters and stuff. So lots of artists that were inspirational.
That's excellent. What is something that people might not be familiar with your work?
I noticed recently that, I don't know, I think like my canvas art, people might not be familiar with. Every February, I do like a canvas art series. And so mainly I'm a digital painter, but then like I'll have roughly about 4 canvas pieces every February that I do. So maybe that. And then also, so my Sunday sketch series has been going on for 10 years, it's like digital paintings. So I feel like there's a ton of stuff from 7, 8, 9 years ago that people don't know about. And I should probably like repost those paintings. A lot of that stuff.
Yeah, you have a huge collection of wonderful paintings and illustrations, and it's been really nice to watch you grow over the years, because we met many moons ago. Yeah, so it's just been so nice to see all the projects you've been involved in, and I'm sure there's a lot that you cannot talk about, but can you talk about some of your more recent ones that have just dropped?
Sure. So my book, my latest picture book just came out called That Flag, and it was written by Tamika Fire Brown, and that was like January 31st. So it's been out for a couple weeks now, and that one is more about. I have a lot of books that might find themselves on like banned book lists, and this is probably another one. It's about these 2 girls who are best friends, and their friendship is tested by the appearance of the Confederate flag. Because one of the two girls, her family has a Confederate flag that they fly in their yard. So that stuff like that, topics that I feel like are a little bit more challenging to discuss, but need to be discussed, um, and packaged in a way that like everybody can understand, and especially younger folks. So yeah, that I'm excited about that. I think a lot of people are gonna love it and need to see this story. I also have a Target line that just came out of Marvel characters. I reimagined Black Panther, Storm, and Miles Morales. It's like in Target nationwide.
I know, it's so cool.
Crazy. Yeah, like I'm still like kind of in shock, and I go in Target and see my face on stuff. Crazy. Yeah, those are a couple of my latest things, and so this year is off to a pretty great start for me, I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's fantastic. I mean, both that your book series, the books that you do, you don't shy away, like you said, from the more challenging topics. And I think that, whether the books get banned or not, it's still so important that it's out there in the world. And then, of course, like you were mentioning about your Target line and expanding and doing lots of other things, that's just wonderful that you're being showcased in your talent. And I'm pretty sure it's going to get to the point where you're walking to Target on a Target run and people will like mob you, right?
I don't know, maybe it's really, I didn't even realize that they put my face on the tag of all the clubs, which was really cool. I have a 2-year-old son, and like we go in there and be like, my wife is like, "Who is that?" He's like, "Daddy, Daddy's
Aw,
on the clothes." So it's really awesome.
that's neat. Is there something that you haven't done yet that you might want to try in 2023 or beyond?
Like, want to try. I feel like one thing is just more like oil painting in general. I haven't done an oil. I do acrylic painting on canvas. So maybe like oil painting. It looks it looks like it would be fun. Experiment with that. And then other than that, I feel like just like different ways that my stories can be told, whether it's like graphic novel type thing, or just different formats, maybe like for TV or film, exploring what that would look like.
You lead a creative life and you do lots of creative pursuits, but are there any creative hobbies you do outside of painting and art just to sort of chill?
I mean, I feel like a lot of it nowadays is revolving around Zion, my 2-year-old. But the things that I feel like we used to do, before he showed up, was like hiking and stuff. So we'll do that same stuff with him. Like I was speaking at a conference in Hawaii recently, and for our off time, we'll just like go find some rainforest type place, or some hikes and trails and things to take him on, or like the beaches and stuff. Try to do some outdoorsy nature stuff.
Do you find that you draw any inspiration from just being in nature when you do that?
Yeah, that definitely. I'm always thinking about like how to like visualize certain landscapes and stuff like that. I worked on Wakanda Forever, the film, and a lot of the concept art stuff for films is really centered around like a lot of like landscapes, environments, different scenes, not so much like character design, but like different scenes that kind of from a wider angle, and then like populating the scenes with characters, yes, but not really focusing on like what are they wearing, or the facial features of the characters, but more so like how does everything look in that environment. And then so every time I'm like anywhere, traveling or something, I'm always like looking at different elements, and sometimes I'll like take even like take pictures and maybe use certain features, like some, even if it's like close up, sometimes like close up of a crazy looking tree or something like that, that I can use as part of a landscape scene, like kind of a tiny detail that can be blown up to look like something else.
Nice. In terms of your creative process, what is one of your favorite parts?
Definitely the when I start out, it's like there's a moment when it, because I do a lot of speed paintings, and so there's like this moment of like, well, I have a lot of images, a lot of, you know, inspirational images, mood boards and stuff like that. But then when I'm starting to sketch and take all those ideas and put it down, it's kind of like this sculpture period of like what I call like the add and subtract painting method, of like just throwing a bunch of paint on the canvas like digitally, you know, in Photoshop. So sketching really fast some sort of shape and then chipping away at it until it, like you get the right whatever it is that I'm trying to create, like get it to look right. And I think that's one of the coolest parts is just like watching it kind of form like in real time, whatever that thing is that I'm trying to make. Like how can I get this to look like I have this image in my head of what I want it to look like. And then it's really a struggle, like a battle, like trying to get it to look exactly like I have it in my mind and really chipping away at all the pieces that aren't supposed to be there. And then just adding more and more layers of paint until it really starts to look exactly the way that I want it.
Is there a least favorite part of the creative process for you?
I don't know. Maybe like, I don't know, when it gets towards like, if it's not just a Sunday sketch where like I have to keep it, I always want to keep it like loose and sketchy and, you know, it doesn't have to be perfect. That's great. But sometimes like it might be for something else where it needs to be like way more, you know, detailed and perfect. And I don't typically like I don't like clean lines. I don't like it being like exact and perfect. But sometimes it might need to be a little bit more detailed and perfect. So like that kind of those later stages of cleaning up the look of it or cleaning up whatever it is probably a little bit less exciting, but sometimes it's necessary for whatever that product is.
Do you find yourself gravitating toward a specific color scheme or theme or anything for this new year?
I don't know. I feel like I'm always playing with all these different color schemes, and I feel like it's whatever the project kind of is speaking to. But I do always have kind of I have like my favorite kind of color schemes, which kind of bend towards like a orangish golden, warm, like yellowy, that kind of thing. But then I was just doing like a little speed painting demo, and I was saying how like there's for some reason like there's this purple wash that I love to like put over everything. This some for some reason it really helps. I don't know, for some just like this purple glow that I put on, like you'll see a lot of my pieces kind of have. It's really subtle, but it's like it helps a lot of times give a certain, maybe it's like a sci-fi thing or just like otherworldly kind of feel. But yeah, sometimes it's like a purple glow. Other than that, definitely there's always a lot of like sunlight and trying to convey like some sort of hope or something where I'll have kind of like an orangey golden yellow vibe.
Is there a piece of creative advice that you always follow or one that you always ignore?
One that I always follow, I mean, I think it's probably Nina Simone that says it's an artist's duty to reflect the times and look at what's happening in the world. And, you know, making one art piece a week, it's like it seems like it might be hard. It might be easy to like run out of ideas or something, but creativity is everywhere around us. There's always inspiration, and there's always a way to like be inspired by what's happening in the world or frustrated by what's happening in the world and like use that to create something new. So just always looking at what's happening, what's going on. And then I guess I would say artistically, I try to always think about like this concept of like everything is a remix, which there's like a cool video that I had seen one time called Everything's a Remix, and try to, remind young artists like you're not really gonna like just magically like create something that hasn't been done before. Like it's not a problem to like look at what other artists have done, and just be inspired by other things. And I always tell young folks to like, what I say is like emulate the greats, or like see, look at how Van Gogh created stuff, or any artist out there, and try to like recreate that style, and sometimes just for practice. And I think that helps artists like find their own voice, really just like trying a bunch of different styles. I've tried so many styles and practicing, and then you'll eventually come up with your own style, your own voice.
Did you have any barriers, whether it was your own internal struggles or external struggles, to reaching this current point in your career?
I don't know if I would call it a barrier, but like there was like a lot of, for me, kind of like a push towards, going into a career that was like maybe less artistic or more engineering based, or I don't know. I ended up doing architecture, which I use a lot of my art skills in architecture school. But I think there is this thing where it's just like in society, it's like, you should find a career path that a real job where you can become an engineer or something like that. And the art path for me took a long time to get to where I am now as a professional artist. And really, I don't have any regrets, but it was something where even personally, like just in my mind, and maybe that is part of the thing where, society says do this and don't do that, or this is a real job and this is not. But I never was the type of person to say, well, like I want to be an artist when I grow up. So I just ended up, doing the architecture thing, and that, it was great because it led to, basically pitching ideas to Disney and becoming an Imagineer and doing all this stuff. And but at the same time realizing like, oh yeah, art is my passion. So I should probably be doing that every day. Yeah.
Yeah. Would you say that Disney trip that we had way back when, was that like a turning point for you?
Yeah, that was definitely a huge turning point. I mean, sometimes I think about like, man, if I had never found out about Imaginations in 2007, like what would I be doing? It was just great. There's so many amazing people that we met, and just like the artists and the engineers and the writers, like the Imagineers are just amazing. And they were like very welcoming, and we're so excited to see what ideas we had, and that was great in itself, just like a confidence booster. But also to see that there was this, I mean, I had no idea that there was a place that like designed theme parks that's called Imagineering, until I got to college. So that was helpful to see that. And then being able to do an internship after graduating, and I literally just like drove out to California and never went anywhere else. And I've been here in Los Angeles ever since. So definitely changed everything.
It was definitely very inspiring to see all those talented people doing something they were so passionate about.
Yeah, that was really cool.
And then you became one of those talented people who's passionate about what you do.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, just it's kind of, it rubs off on you, I guess. And really, I think I just learned so much from a lot of the artists, and even the artists who aren't there anymore, but the legends who they have art on the walls and stuff. Just sometimes I'll just stop by some of these art pieces every day and just stop and take notes, mental notes on how they painted stuff. And all that is I still think about. It's like in the back of my mind as I'm making the art that I make today.
What is a stereotype that you hope to break with your work?
I think there's a ton of stereotypes that are placed on a lot of minorities, a lot of people who have been marginalized, who, don't have like all the advantages that certain people have in this country. And some of it, like one example, just like creating paintings of like immigrants or asylum seekers or things like that who are coming to the border, and literally just painting them with their families to show that they are just like anybody else who wants to protect their families. And no, they don't they're not like bringing drugs and all these other things. And that the majority of the asylum seekers were just like people fleeing terrible circumstances who want a better life, stuff like that, where I try to create portraits that are looking at you in the eye, and a way for you to see the humanity in that person, even in a digital painting, trying to see that humanity. That's one of the things that I feel like can help. And it seems to have an impact, even like I said, even a painting portrait of somebody looking you in the eyes. And it just makes you want to get to know that person for who they are, and kind of breaks down and pushes away all of the stereotypes or whatever negative thing is kind of trying to be perpetuated.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely love the variety of your work. And like you said, the humanity and the fact that you're not afraid to paint something that is in the news, and current events, and just bringing to light a lot of things, both the good, the bad, and the ugly, I guess, about our world.
Yeah, it's not easy, but it's something that I feel like is very important. And we have to talk about the hard stuff, the stuff that is usually tried to be swept under the rug, and the stuff that we actually need to talk about if we want to move forward as a society.
You've definitely created a lot of very moving portraits, and I'm sure made so many people so proud with your work. But I am curious, is there anything you wish you had known when you first started on this journey?
Maybe just like more from an artistic point of view, like wish I had known more artists or more influential painters and things like that. That I feel like coming from the architecture world, sometimes I feel like I'm still like learning the art world in terms of like knowing a ton about construction documents and engineering and all of that stuff, and jumping into the art world. So it's a little different, but I'm kind of just like picking it up, as I go, like which artists to know, and who's doing what, and the waves and the riding the waves that are coming along in the art world. It's exciting. Maybe it's more exciting that way, not knowing, just like figuring out as I go along.
Definitely an adventure, right?
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, one final question before we let you go. In your own words, what does it mean to live a creative life?
To live a creative life, I think it means, for one, just like standing on the shoulders of giants who have come before you, honestly, because I do feel like creativity is really just like a mix of your own amazing ideas and stuff that has happened in the past, and mixing it together to make something new, that kind of thing. But also just really finding the thing that frustrates you, or the thing that you want to like shout out about at the top of a mountain. Those things that really you want to see fix in the world, as part of like the artivism that I make, is like trying to inspire people to make a positive change, like calling out all those broken bones, being creative. And I always say, like, I think everybody has creativity, but when you find that thing that really frustrates you, and then it's like, okay, what am I gonna do about this thing? I feel like your creativity is like activated even more when you're trying to make art related to that thing. Then I think, you're gonna have even more creativity, and you're gonna be inspired to make something really amazing. Which is why I try to encourage everybody to make artivism, like make something that will help inspire people to make a change.
Excellent. Well, Nick, thank you so much for joining the podcast. It was wonderful to catch up with you.
Thank you. This was amazing.
And listeners, please check out the show notes for Nick's full bio and also where you can purchase his books. He is a New York Times bestselling illustrator. And pop into Target if you haven't gotten there recently and check out his Marvel collection.
That's right. Target. And then also Nikkolas.art is my website.
Awesome. As always, thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to the podcast. Like the show? Have a question? Stop by the Facebook and Instagram pages. Links are in the show notes, or search for Creative Piecemeal Podcast on social media and click follow for all the latest.